Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's topic is basically going to be that we really do understand this more than we think. I was chatting with a coaching client the other day who's, in the beginning, well, I wouldn't say the beginning, he's like a couple years in and still litigation's going on, and it's like the ex keeps trying to throw these Hail Mary passes. And one of the things I asked this guy, and I'll put this out to you guys as well, so anybody who is dealing with this, maybe this will resonate with you. So the question is how many people have been in a professional environment, corporate or whatever, where you've recognized somebody setting you up, basically bad mouthing you, trying to get you in trouble, and you recognize it. And I hear this a lot. I actually have another friend of mine who's dealing with the exact same thing, for whatever reason. And that person is basically smearing your reputation or planting the seed of doubt. I kind of like to think of it sometimes as like Inception, like the movie Inception, where people are putting that little idea out there in the world that you are a certain way, that you are late, that you are combative, that you aren't a team player, that you're more focused on something else than the job, whatever the thing is. Most people, when I ask that question, will say that, yeah, absolutely, I've been in that, and I've been in that. And then the follow-on question is, were you able to recognize it and then effectively negotiate that? When I say negotiate, I don't mean, negotiate. What I mean is recognize it and navigate. Maybe that's a better way to do it, to say it. And then most people can. Most people said, oh yeah, no, I recognized that this person was doing it. I knew what they were doing. I knew what they were trying to get me to do. I knew how my bosses were being played, and whatnot. And then you pick a strategy to go forward. And I've been a victim. Well, let me back up. I've been a target of this attack professionally. And I also have been manipulated in that way. In other words, what I mean is I've had somebody come up and plant that little seed in my head saying, so-and-so is not doing what they're supposed to do, or, they're messing up, or they're doing whatever. And I've got myself even caught up in that to where I believed it, and I started seeing what other people were saying. Now I recognize it, so it's not, that doesn't really happen anymore. And to be perfectly honest, I'm so sick and tired of the games and the manipulation. I just don't even enjoy that crap anymore. But here's my point. If everything I said you can relate to, now take and look at your ex and what's going on with them. And ask yourself, is it the same thing? Is your ex pushing your buttons to try to get you to react or to respond in a certain way? And is your ex going to different people, like in the professional world, it's your coworkers, it's your boss, it's your senior management, it's that scenario. In this situation, it's your family, the kid's teachers, the kid's therapist, the custody evaluator, whatever the hell it is, you have the same type of thing going on. So the thing is you have to take a step back and you have to look at the situation and say, okay, what exactly is your adversary, your ex, trying to get you to do? What are they trying to have you do? What script are they trying to have you play? And if you can recognize that, and I think most of us can, if you can recognize that, then you can take active steps to not do that thing, or to demonstrate by your actions that what's being said isn't true. If you can do that, you can basically and systematically start eroding their version of the story. If you do that, you can calmly have them start to appear unhinged and you appear as the calm one. If you've watched any of my older videos, the pre-beard videos, the early day videos of this channel, you probably may have seen a video where I say, you know, you got your two sides, and what your ex is trying to do, if this is you and this is your ex is trying to get you dysregulated and get you to basically be like this, right? So if somebody is looking at this situation, they're going to be focusing at the motion. They're going to be focusing at you. What you got to do is you got to calm down and let their, so it's probably a little bit slower, but their movements, their actions speak volumes for what's going on. If you can do that, you'll take the attention off of you, and people will start looking at both situations and they'll start saying, hey, there's something wrong here. It sucks because it takes a long time. I mean, it takes a while for that to happen, and then you have to counter the narrative that's been said about you. Now, I had to deal with that. I had to deal with that a lot. I had the children having a strange relationship with their biological father. I remember having to go in and I met with the kids there, or my son's therapist at one point, or early on in this. This is the beginning stages of it. And in my opinion, what was going on is she was shopping for a therapist or a psychologist to validate that I was a piece of crap, that the kids would be better off living with her, and that was her Hail Mary pass to try to change the way things have played out. The little side note I'll just add in here real quick is we tend to think that once we go through this process and we get a judgment or a final order in our divorce, that it's over. And that, you know, nobody really wants to live in this type of chaos, so that, you know, they're going to calm down, you can calm down, and you can start moving on with your life. And then you quickly realize that folks like this will just keep doubling and tripling down, and they'll keep trying. I mean, another example, you know, I mean, look at the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp fiasco of a trial that's going on right now. And I would say probably most people in the country, I mean, I'm not even really following it. I'm only like cursory following this. But it appears as though Amber has just lit herself on fire and has just destroyed, or continues to destroy, her credibility. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, you know, why would you continue to do that? Why would you put yourself in that situation? And she's been trying to not do this, and has just backed herself into a corner to where, I mean, this is just the reality of it. What I'm trying to say is, this is a lot of time what happens with an ex. They like the chaos so much, and when they don't get the outcome they want, they keep trying. They try something different. Okay, so I went through, I was a piece of crap, you know, shouldn't have, being every other, being the weekend father would be sufficient. That was, that was the wording my ex used to use was pretty crazy sometimes. Would be sufficient. And then it was, I got, we agreed to 50-50 finally, because basically, I think, I don't know, whatever. She ran out of money, but finally we settled on 50-50. And you would think that would be over. No, it wasn't over. Then it was, we had moved the kids to a better school. Basically, I work on a military base. There's a school on base. We moved the kids on to the school on base. Right after that, it was, the kids want to go to school where they live. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. The school the kids are going to is rated a 7. The school in our town is rated a 2. And we had our kids in that school, and we knew what, how bad it was, some of the crazy crap that was happening in those schools. So first it was, kids want to go to school where they live. I was like, nope. Then it was, kids want to be homeschooled. And when I say this wasn't coming from her. It wasn't coming from the ex, right? This was you want to go to school where you live. Isn't it suck having to drive on base? You have no friends. Just this undermining, trying to convince them that to change. Then it was the homeschool. We want to be homeschooled. And that's what happened. I remember one day I go to, middle daughter needed to go get something from her mom. So pulled up, ran in the house. A little while later, comes out. Middle daughter comes bouncing in the car, and it's like, Mommy respects my decision. And I'm like, well, what decision is that, honey? I'm going to be homeschooled. And I'm like, the hell you are, which turned into a complete, train wreck of a conversation. Fortunately, I was able to recognize that and calm myself down. Didn't initially, but, so that turned into a, my, God, what was she? 13, 14 years old at the time? I can't remember. Pointing her bony little finger at me. You don't listen to me. You blah, 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 blah. And I just got calmer and calmer. And the crazy part is this kid is my one kid who's, in university right now, got a really good scholarship-ish. There's still money to be paid, but I mean, she got the highest scholarship in her class at high school. Anyways, good student. Homeschooling would not have been, in that environment, would not have been good. I mean, the ex doesn't, I was like, well, who's going to be your teacher? Mommy. And it's like, oh my God, would have been a train wreck. So it's just, my point is this. I mean, this is over years, right? So it's just this constant barrage of things. I mean, then I think the other thing I heard a few years later is, she was talking about, trying to convince them to move to a different location or move out of state. Thank God the kids finally put their foot down on that and were like, nope. They thwarted that. But if at any step along the ways, if the kids really would have pushed it, it would have, she could have won. She could have, not won's not the right word, but she could have been victorious. So it's just this constant barrage battle, right? So let me roll this back to what I was talking about in the beginning, right? You have to recognize what your ex is trying to get you to do. What buttons are they trying to push? Are they trying to say that you are controlling, domineering, all you care about is winning, or you care, whatever the story is, right? You have to understand that and think in your mind. And it sucks because you don't want to have to play act with people or try to be quote unquote manipulative, but you have to understand what they're trying to do, what they're telling people. For instance, if you go to meet with a teacher or something and you're having a conversation and you find them get really angry or something about something and they start lashing out at you, you got to go, what exactly just happened here? More than likely what's happened is they've been sold a story about how you are. You inadvertently are demonstrating that. So in their mind, you are proving the point. And this happens with our kids all the time too. Typically, toxic exes will do this with your kids too. They'll plant the seed. Oh, it's so sad that mommy is this or daddy is that. And then when you do it and it fits in with that story, then the kids think that it's true, right? And you'll probably recognize that as well. So figure out what it is they're trying to do and undo it. Don't do those behaviors. If going back on the therapist thing, like in my situation, whenever I finally sat down and met with the therapist, and they're like, oh, your son has an estranged relationship with you. And I don't even think it was said that way. I think it was like, well, child has an estranged relationship with their biological father. This is what this guy says to me. I mean, like, to my face. I was like, well, that's weird because, that would be me. And I'm like, okay. So I just systematically, just pragmatically went through it because they wanted to put him on medication. That was what was going on. And I'm like, okay. First question was this. I said, okay, so have you seen, I pull up a pile of paper. You guys know that I think that, my son has a disability. So he had an individualized education plan. Every year, school, there's a mandatory meeting. All the teachers provide reports on how little Timmy's doing, yada, yada. And I'm like, hey, have you seen this? Because you're saying he's estranged, he's stressed, he's got ADD, ADHD, he's got depressive, he's got all these problems. I don't know if depression was it, but maybe it was anxiety or something. I don't remember what it was. And I said, hey, have you seen this? No, I haven't seen this. I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, so I hear what you're saying. You're saying that that my son has these issues. Yes. I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. Is it consistent for someone to have that issue that you're seeing, that you're about ready to diagnose, and then to have 7 teachers say that little Timmy's a joy to be in class, he's a hard worker, he has a lot of, he's very caring, he's very, all these things, basically saying, great kid in class. I said, is it normal for a diagnosis to be of what you're saying, and then this report to come out from the teachers? Or is the typical scenario those behaviors that you're saying you're seeing and you're hearing about would translate into school and still be consistent and be a problem? And he kind of looked at me and he's like, well, no, it wouldn't. It would be, or yes, it would be consistent. No, you typically wouldn't see no behavioral issues, no homework, no issues in getting the work done or anything like that. And I said, okay. And then I just, so I was just slowly, methodically going through this. I mean, I wasn't getting all angry or anything. And then I was like, I said, then the next thing I brought up is I said, hey, do you think that, I think I had this way, it's been a long time, but I think it was like one of the other things I brought up is I said, well, every time you see little Timmy, mommy's bringing him in. The behaviors you're talking about, I haven't seen. I mean, this is what I said, I told them about the Groundhog Day. I said, normally what happens is a little bit of stress on transition day. Normally by the second day, things are calm. By the weekend, everything's fine. And then maybe some behavioral problems start happening back on transition day. I said, is that consistent with what would be with that? No. Then I was like, okay, maybe, do you think maybe he potentially might be getting, or, little Timmy is getting riled, and his name's not Timmy, by the way, just to throw that out there. Do you think maybe Timmy's being riled up so that this scenario is being parroted potentially? I said, he goes, well, maybe. I said, well, maybe we should just, we'll swap back and forth. I bring him in sometimes, mommy brings him in sometimes, and then we'll, you guys can see if you see a difference. He's like, okay. And then I said, no, by the way, I said the whole purpose of this and the therapy, if you're saying that the primary issue is an estranged relationship with the biological father, i.e. me, then the whole purpose is to try to rectify that, right? The guy's like, yeah. I said, okay, so what can we do on that? I said, I'm seeing a therapist. I can do a release so that you guys can talk with her. You guys can confer professionally. And, if there's things I need to work on to be able to make my relationship better with little Timmy, then we can all work together on that. I mean, isn't that kind of what the whole purpose is? And the guy's like, yeah. But see, guys, if you're listening to that, think about how I'm approaching that. I wasn't being combative. I wasn't being argumentative. I mean, I guess I was kind of in a way, but I mean, I wasn't like, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Mommy's a psycho, blip, 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 beep, 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 beep. I mean, I thought that, but I didn't, that wasn't the thing. I was like, okay, how do I work with this person to try to develop a solution? If I would have gone in there and been more aggressive, they would have expected that. I'm sure they were primed with how controlling and domineering and, how much of a schmuck I was. And if I would have done that, it would have just demonstrated. And they would have been like, okay, yeah, this guy is doing exactly the same thing. So, to recap, figure out what exactly they're trying to get you to do. What's the script they're trying to get you to read from? As soon as you recognize somebody might be thinking that you're a certain way and it doesn't conform with it, instead of getting all paranoid, say, okay, obviously the X is conferring with other people, basically running a smear campaign, trying to convince people that you're a demon. And what do you have to do to prove that that's not a point, that that's not the case? And the final thought on that is what you have to remember is it takes time to do this. You're not going to be able to go one day and portray yourself in a certain way and everyone's going to go, oh, okay, yeah, wow, this, everything was wrong. I now see what's going on. It's going to take consistency on your part perseverance on your part to continue to demonstrate this. This is the same way you deal with it with teachers, with therapists, with doctors, and then all the crap in family court, the gals and the custody evaluators and all that stuff. This is also what you have to do with your kids. If your kids start acting like, you're a certain way, you have to start demonstrating that that's not the case, and just be consistent with it. And my battery's about ready to die. This video is way too long, so I'm gonna have to get out of here. Love to hear what you think. If you think this is helpful, we'd love to hear your comments in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.